Modern child-rearing operates on a baseline of zero tolerance for physical risk. Parents schedule playdates weeks in advance, monitor infants with wearable biometric sensors, and meticulously sanitize every toddler surface. Our public spaces reflect this shift. Instead of asphalt and sharp metal, today's playgrounds are paved with spongy rubber and outfitted with rounded plastic structures designed to absorb impact and eliminate the possibility of a fall. But the adults engineering these injury-proof bubbles grew up in a different world. In the 1970s and 80s, children regularly roamed neighborhoods for miles, completely untethered from adult oversight. This was the era of the Latchkey Kid. For millions of children, the daily afternoon ritual consisted of walking home from school, unlocking the door to an empty house, and fending for themselves for hours while their parents were at work. It presents a striking contradiction. The same generation that drank from garden hoses and vanished until the streetlights came on grew up to be the mothers and fathers tracking their teenagers' exact locations via smartphone apps. There is a direct connection between these two eras. This psychological pipeline suggests that the hyper-vigilance of the modern parent is an active response to the unsupervised environment of their own childhoods. Economic pressures in the late 20th century forced households to adapt. The rise of dual-income families and increasing divorce rates meant adults were tied to corporate desks late into the evening, leaving homes empty during the day. For a kid sitting alone on a Tuesday afternoon, technology offered a single lifeline. The corded telephone was the only way to bridge the physical gap, serving as a vital checkpoint between an unsupervised child and a working parent. While often remembered as an era of carefree adventure, the latchkey life meant managing a quiet, lingering anxiety. Many children spent those hours aware that if something went wrong, there was no adult immediately available to help. Sitting in those quiet living rooms, many of these kids made a subconscious vow. When they eventually had children of their own, they resolved to provide the constant presence and emotional support they felt they were lacking. The absence of a parental safety net left a deep emotional imprint. By trying to fill the void of their own childhoods, this generation established the baseline for a massive generational overcompensation. That internal vow collided with a shift in public safety awareness in 1979. The disappearance of 6-year-old Eton Patz in Manhattan introduced the concept of stranger danger to families nationwide. Seeing a missing child's face plastered across milk cartons and standardized police descriptions made the threat tangible. The involvement of major institutions like the NYPD transformed child safety into a formalized public concern. This fear was magnified by new media infrastructure. The birth of the 24-hour cable news network meant that isolated crimes from thousands of miles away were broadcast continuously into living rooms, making rare tragedies feel like imminent threats. Later national traumas solidified this protective instinct. The attacks of September 11th destroyed the illusion of domestic security, embedding a rigid safety-at-all-costs mentality deep into the American psyche. When GPS tracking and smartphones reached the consumer market, parents finally acquired the tools to act on these deep-seated fears. They could now monitor their children with military precision. Helicopter parenting was the inevitable result. It is the product of 1980s neglect colliding with the media-driven panic of the decades that followed. We can see the end point of this pipeline on any neighborhood playground today. Children are physically safer than any previous generation, yet they are heavily shielded during even the most routine play. This chart shows the inverse relationship between physical safety and mental health. As the number of unstructured play hours has dropped over the last few decades, clinical anxiety diagnoses among youth have steadily climbed. Psychologists call this the safety paradox. By removing the risk of a scraped knee or a playground dispute, we accidentally remove the child's ability to learn self-reliance and emotional regulation. Latchkey parents focused so intensely on healing their own childhood trauma that they overcorrected. In their mission to provide constant presence, they neglected to give their children the autonomy needed to build resilience. A healthy middle path requires the generational pendulum to settle between the neglect of the past and the suffocation of the present. Children need exposure to measured risks to develop into capable adults. To raise healthy children, parents must recognize their own pipeline trauma. Only then can they find the courage to step back and finally allow their children to be home alone.